In the vast expanse of space, where stars twinkled like distant lanterns and planets floated silently in their orbits, there was a belief shared by many civilizations. This belief was simple yet profound. Intelligent life was rare. It wasn't just an idea. It was almost a law of the universe, whispered among star systems, but never truly proven. For centuries, countless species had searched for others like them, hoping to find proof that they weren't alone. But all they found were barren worlds or primitive creatures incapable of thought or reason. That changed one fateful day when an alien exploration vessel stumbled upon something extraordinary. The crew aboard this ship belonged to a coalition known as the Stellar Concordance, a group of advanced civilizations working together to map uncharted regions of the galaxy. They were not on a mission to seek out new life. They were simply doing what they always did, charting stars, studying cosmic phenomena, and cataloging planets. Their journey had taken them far from familiar territories, deep into sectors of space no one had explored before. It started with a blip on their sensors. At first, it seemed ordinary, a small planet orbiting a yellow dwarf star. But as the ship's instruments analyzed the data, something unusual caught their attention. The atmosphere of this world was rich with oxygen, nitrogen, and traces of other gases that hinted at biological activity. Even more surprising was the presence of structures on its surface. These weren't natural formations like mountains or canyons. They were geometric shapes, clearly artificial. Someone, or something, had built them. Curiosity turned into astonishment when the crew realized the scale of what they were seeing. This planet wasn't just home to basic life forms, it hosted an entire civilization. Cities sprawled across continents, connected by networks of roads and railways. Lights flickered in the darkness, evidence of technology powered by electricity. And then there were the people themselves, billions of individuals moving about their lives, creating, building, destroying, and rebuilding. What shocked the aliens most wasn't just the existence of these beings. It was how different they were from every other species the Concordance had encountered. Most civilizations followed predictable patterns. They built sterile, efficient cities designed for functionality rather than beauty. Their societies were governed by logic and order, prioritizing survival above all else. Emotions, if they existed at all, were subdued, seen as obstacles to progress. But here, on this strange blue-green world, things were entirely different. The humans, as the aliens came to call them, were chaotic yet vibrant. Their cities were messy, filled with towering skyscrapers alongside humble homes, bustling markets, and quiet parks. Art adorned walls and streets, paintings, sculptures, murals, all expressions of creativity that served no practical purpose, but seemed deeply important to the people who made them. Music echoed through the air, melodies that stirred feelings even the aliens couldn't fully understand. And then there were the emotions themselves. Humans laughed, cried, argued, loved, and hated with an intensity that baffled the observers. And they were driven not just by logic, but by passions that defied explanation. But perhaps the most perplexing aspect of humanity was its duality. On one hand, these beings were capable of incredible acts of kindness. The aliens watched as strangers helped each other during disasters, sharing food and shelter without expecting anything in return. Families cared for their sick and elderly, often sacrificing their own comfort to ensure the well-being of others. Entire communities came together to celebrate achievements, mourn losses, and support one another through hardships. On the other hand, humans were also capable of devastating cruelty. Wars raged across the planet, fueled by greed, ideology, and fear. Weapons of unimaginable power were stockpiled, ready to be unleashed at a moment's notice. The aliens observed leaders exploiting their followers, corporations polluting the environment for profit, and individuals harming others out of jealousy or anger. It was as if humanity carried both light and darkness within them, constantly struggling to find balance. Word of the discovery spread quickly through the stellar concordance's communication channels. Within hours, the entire galaxy knew about Earth. Ships paused mid-journey, scientists abandoned experiments, and politicians halted debates, all to discuss what had been found. For the first time in recorded history, the galaxy fell silent, not out of fear, but out of awe. No one could believe what they were hearing. A species so complex, so contradictory, so full of potential and peril, had been hiding in plain sight all along. Debates erupted among the Concordance's leaders. What should they do next? Should they make contact with humanity, introducing themselves and offering guidance? Or should they observe from afar, ensuring their presence remained undetected? Some argued that humanity's unpredictability made them dangerous. If such volatile beings ever ventured into space, they might disrupt the delicate balance of galactic politics. Others countered that humanity's creativity and resilience made them invaluable allies. Perhaps, they suggested, humans could teach the rest of the galaxy something it had forgotten long ago: the power of emotion, the beauty of imperfection, and the strength found in diversity. As discussions continued, the aliens kept watching Earth, captivated by what they saw. They marveled at the way humans adapted to challenges, finding solutions where none seemed possible. And they admired the courage it took to dream big, even when failure loomed large. And they envied the connections humans formed with one another, bonds that transcended language, culture, and distance. Little did the aliens know their discovery would change everything, not just for humanity, but for the entire galaxy. The question now was whether this change would bring harmony or chaos. Only time would tell. The aliens, still reeling from the shock of discovering Earth, decided to take a cautious approach. They weren't ready to reveal themselves, not yet. Instead, they chose to observe humanity from afar, using advanced technology to study every aspect of human life without being detected. Cloaked drones hovered silently in the skies, capturing images and recordings of cities, towns, and even remote villages. Satellites orbited the planet, when analyzing everything from communication signals to weather patterns. To the humans below, life went on as usual, completely unaware that they were being watched by beings from another world. What the aliens saw during this period of observation left them both fascinated and confused. Humanity was unlike anything they had ever encountered before. On one hand, humans displayed incredible acts of kindness and cooperation. The aliens witnessed moments that seemed almost magical. Strangers helping each other after natural disasters, communities coming together to rebuild shattered homes, and families supporting one another through tough times. These acts of selflessness stood out sharply against the backdrop of the galaxy's more utilitarian civilizations, where survival often took precedence over compassion. But then there was the other side, the darker, more troubling aspects of human nature. The aliens couldn't ignore the wars that raged across the planet, fueled by greed, ideology, and fear. They watched armies clash, bombs explode, and innocent lives destroyed in the name of power or revenge. It wasn't just large-scale conflicts that troubled them. They also observed smaller, personal cruelties, people lying, cheating, stealing, and hurting one another for reasons that seemed petty or irrational. This duality within humanity baffled the observers. How could a species capable of such beauty also be capable of such destruction? Despite these contradictions, what intrigued the aliens most was humanity's ability to adapt. Humans didn't just survive, they thrived in the face of adversity. When hurricanes flattened cities, or they rebuilt stronger structures. When diseases spread, they developed vaccines and treatments. When resources dwindled, They found innovative ways to conserve and replenish them. The aliens marveled at how quickly humans learn from their mistakes, constantly evolving and improving. It was as if failure wasn't an endpoint for them, but a stepping stone towards something better. One particular event caught the aliens' attention and sparked intense debate among their ranks. It was a global summit held to address climate change, a crisis threatening the very survival of humanity. Leaders from nations around the world gathered in a massive conference center representing cultures, languages, and ideologies that couldn't have been more different. For days, they argued, negotiated, and compromised, struggling to find common ground. So tensions ran high, and it seemed like the summit might collapse under the weight of its own divisions. But then, something remarkable happened. Against all odds, the leaders reached an agreement. They committed to reducing carbon emissions, investing in renewable energy, and protecting vulnerable ecosystems. The aliens couldn't believe what they were witnessing. In their experience, most species would prioritize short-term gains over long-term stability, especially when faced with complex challenges. Yet here were humans, setting aside their differences for the greater good, not because they had to, but because they chose to. This moment became a turning point for the aliens. It forced them to reconsider their initial assumptions about humanity. Perhaps these beings weren't as reckless or dangerous as some had feared, when maybe their capacity for cooperation and innovation made them uniquely suited to tackle problems that would overwhelm others. But questions remained. Could humanity sustain this level of unity, or was it merely a fleeting response to a pressing crisis? And what would happen if they ever ventured beyond their planet, bringing their chaotic brilliance into the wider galaxy? As the aliens continued their observations, cracks began forming within the stellar concordance itself. Not everyone agreed on how to handle the situation. Some factions argued that humanity posed too great a risk. If such unpredictable beings ever gained access to interstellar travel, they might destabilize galactic order, either intentionally or unintentionally. Others countered that humanity's creativity and resilience made them invaluable allies. Imagine the possibilities, they said, if humans joined forces with the concordance. Together, they could solve problems that had stumped the galaxy for centuries. These debates grew heated, reflecting the same duality the aliens saw in humanity. On one side were those who valued caution and control, believing that order must always come before chaos. On the other side were those who embraced uncertainty, seeing it as a source of growth and opportunity. The division mirrored humanity's own struggles between logic and emotion, reason and passion. Meanwhile, the observers themselves were undergoing a subtle transformation. At first, their mission had been purely scientific, to gather data and assess humanity's potential threat. But as they spent more time watching humans, they began to feel something unexpected: envy. Humans live messy, unpredictable lives full of highs and lows, triumphs and failures. Their emotions, joy, sorrow, love, anger, were raw and unfiltered, driving them to create art, tell stories, and dream impossible dreams. The aliens, with their logical minds and ordered societies, couldn't help but wonder what it would be like to live so freely, so fully. Back on Earth, life carried on as usual. People woke up, went to work, spent time with loved ones, and pursued their passions. They argued about politics, celebrated holidays, and shared meals with friends. None of them realized that their everyday actions were being scrutinized by beings from another world. To the aliens, however, these mundane moments were anything but ordinary. They revealed the essence of humanity, a species defined not by perfection, but by imperfection, not by uniformity, but by diversity. As the weeks turned into months, the aliens faced a growing dilemma. Their mission parameters strictly prohibited interference unless absolutely necessary. But how could they remain passive observers when humanity's complexity challenged everything they thought they knew about life? Should they break protocol and make contact, risking the unknown consequences? Or should they continue watching from the shadows, gathering information without engaging directly? For now, they chose the latter path, knowing that any decision to intervene would require careful consideration. But deep down, they understood that their discovery of Earth had already changed them, and it was only a matter of time before it changed the galaxy too. After months of careful observation, the aliens finally made a decision. They couldn't stay hidden forever, not with so much at stake. Humanity's actions had shown them that this species was too important to ignore, too unpredictable to leave unchecked. The Stellar Concordance agreed to send a small delegation to Earth under strict orders: observe, assess, and avoid revealing themselves unless absolutely necessary. Their mission was clear: to determine whether humanity was ready for contact and if peaceful coexistence was even possible. The delegation consisted of a handful of beings chosen for their expertise in diplomacy, science, and cultural studies. Each member of the team had undergone rigorous training to prepare for the complexities of interacting with such an unusual species. They were equipped with advanced cloaking technology, ensuring they could move undetected through Earth's skies and cities. For everything seemed to be going according to plan until disaster struck. It happened during a routine surveillance flight over a remote region. One of the alien ships, a sleek vessel designed for stealth and speed, experienced a sudden malfunction. Its systems glitched, causing it to lose altitude rapidly. Despite the crew's best efforts to regain control, the ship crashed into a dense forest near a small village. Smoke billowed from the wreckage as alarms blared inside the cockpit. The crew scrambled to assess the damage, knowing they had only moments before their presence was discovered. And discovered they were. Within hours, villagers stumbled upon the crash site. At first, they approached cautiously, unsure of what they were looking at. The ship's metallic surface shimmered faintly in the sunlight, or its design unlike anything they'd ever seen. When one brave soul stepped closer, they found the injured pilot slumped inside the cockpit. The alien's appearance was both fascinating and terrifying. Its slender frame, smooth skin, and large luminous eyes marked it as unmistakably otherworldly. But instead of reacting with fear or hostility, the villagers did something unexpected. They helped. Using whatever tools and supplies they had on hand, they carefully extracted the alien from the wreckage and carried it back to the village. There they tended to its injuries, wrapping wounds with clean cloth and offering water in makeshift containers. The alien, weak and disoriented, could do little more than watch as these strange beings worked tirelessly to save its life. News of the incident spread like wildfire. In no time, the story reached local authorities who alerted national governments. Reporters descended on the village, capturing footage of the damaged spacecraft and interviewing witnesses. Social media erupted with speculation, theories, and wild claims. Some people celebrated the discovery, hailing it as proof that humanity wasn't alone in the universe. Others panicked, fearing an invasion or some kind of cosmic threat. Conspiracy theorists had a field day, weaving elaborate narratives about secret government experiments and cover-ups. Governments around the world scrambled to respond. Emergency meetings were held, military forces mobilized, and scientists dispatched to the crash site. Meanwhile, the aliens faced a crisis of their own. Their mission parameters explicitly forbade direct contact unless circumstances forced their hand. But now, thanks to the malfunctioning ship, they had no choice. If they didn't act quickly, humanity's chaotic reaction might spiral out of control. Reluctantly, the delegation decided to reveal themselves publicly. They broadcast a message across all forms of human communication: television, radio, the internet, hoping to calm the growing hysteria. The transmission featured an image of one of the aliens, speaking in halting but understandable English. "We come in peace," the voice said. "Our arrival was accidental, and we mean you no harm." At first, the message seemed to work. People paused their panic and listened. For a brief moment, it felt like the beginning of a new chapter, a chance for humanity to step onto the galactic stage alongside its extraterrestrial neighbors. But that optimism didn't last long. Instead of embracing the aliens' words, humanity reacted with skepticism and suspicion. Governments demanded proof of their intentions, accusing them of hiding ulterior motives. Scientists analyzed fragments of the crashed ship, trying to reverse engineer its technology. Religious leaders debated whether the aliens were divine messengers or harbingers of doom. Ordinary citizens took to the streets, protesting or celebrating depending on their beliefs. The aliens quickly realized they had underestimated humanity's resistance to authority, even extraterrestrial authority. Humans weren't content to simply accept explanations. They wanted answers, evidence, and guarantees. Every statement made by the delegation was dissected, questioned, and challenged. Trust, it seemed, would not come easily. Amid the chaos, tensions escalated. Military forces positioned themselves near the crash site, ready to intervene if necessary. Protesters clashed with police, demanding transparency from their leaders. Online forums buzzed with rumors of alien invasions, secret deals, and impending doom. It was as if humanity's natural instincts for curiosity and caution had collided head-on, creating a storm of confusion and fear. Despite the turmoil, there were moments of hope. Some individuals and communities welcomed the aliens with open arms, offering food, shelter, and assistance. Artists created paintings and sculptures inspired by the visitors, while musicians composed songs celebrating the historic event. Children wrote letters expressing their excitement and asking questions about life among the stars. These gestures, though small, reminded the aliens of humanity's capacity for warmth and wonder. But the overall situation remained precarious. The delegation knew they couldn't afford to make mistakes. Every decision they made, from how to communicate to when to share information, carried enormous weight. One wrong move could turn curiosity into hostility, cooperation into conflict. As days turned into weeks, the aliens began to understand why humanity's complexity had fascinated them from the start. This species didn't follow predictable patterns. They questioned everything, doubted everyone, and refused to take things at face value. While frustrating at times, this trait also hinted at untapped potential. If guided properly, humanity might become a powerful force for good in the galaxy. But getting there would require patience, understanding, and a willingness to adapt. For now, the aliens focused on damage control. They worked to repair their damaged ship, hoping to leave Earth quietly once the situation stabilized. But deep down, they knew their presence had already left an indelible mark. Humanity had been thrust into the spotlight, forced to confront questions about its place in the universe. Whether this experience brought growth or division remained to be seen. What was certain, however, was that nothing would ever be the same again. For humanity, for the aliens, or for the galaxy itself. The situation on Earth had reached a boiling point. The aliens, despite their best intentions, found themselves caught in a whirlwind of human emotions, reactions, and politics. What started as an accidental crash landing had spiraled into a global crisis, with humanity divided over how to respond to the presence of extraterrestrial beings. Some saw the aliens as saviors, others as invaders, and many simply didn't know what to think. Amid the chaos, one thing became clear. Humanity wasn't going to sit back and wait for someone else to take charge. They were ready to act, and they did so in ways that surprised even the most seasoned alien observers. As tensions escalated, governments around the world convened emergency meetings to decide their next steps. Military leaders argued for caution, urging their countries to prepare for the worst-case scenario. Scientists, on the other hand, pushed for collaboration, insisting that studying alien technology could lead to breakthroughs that would benefit all of humanity. Meanwhile, ordinary citizens took matters into their own hands. Social media buzzed with grassroots movements calling for unity, transparency, and peace. Protesters filled the streets, holding signs that read, "Welcome to Earth," alongside others demanding answers about the aliens' true intentions. But it wasn't just protests and debates that defined this period. It was humanity's sheer determination to adapt and innovate. Within weeks of the crash, teams of scientists, engineers, and hobbyists began working together to reverse engineer fragments of the alien spacecraft. These pieces, though small, contained advanced materials and energy systems far beyond anything humans had ever seen. At first, progress was slow. The technology was unlike anything on Earth, and understanding it required leaps of imagination as much as technical skill. But humanity had always thrived under pressure, and this challenge brought out the best in them. In garages, universities, and government labs, people worked tirelessly to unlock the secrets of the alien tech. A group of amateur inventors in a small town managed to replicate a fragment of the ship's propulsion system, creating a rudimentary device capable of generating clean, limitless energy. Another team, led by a physicist who barely slept during those weeks, developed a prototype defense system based on the alien ship's shielding mechanisms. Though crude compared to the original, these innovations proved that humanity was more than capable of rising to the occasion. Word of these breakthroughs spread quickly, sparking both hope and fear. On one hand, people celebrated the idea that humanity could learn from the aliens and use their knowledge to improve life on Earth. And on the other hand, there were concerns about the implications of such rapid advancements. Would this newfound power be used responsibly, or would it fall into the wrong hands? Governments tightened security around research facilities, while activists called for international oversight to ensure fairness and prevent misuse. The aliens watched all of this unfold with a mix of admiration and concern. They had expected humanity to react with fear or awe, but not like this. Humans weren't just reacting. They were taking control of the situation, shaping it in ways that reflected their unique blend of creativity and defiance. To the aliens, this was both inspiring and unsettling. It reminded them of their own early days as a spacefaring civilization, when every discovery felt like a step into the unknown. But humanity's pace was staggering. Where it might have taken other species decades or even centuries to achieve similar results, humans accomplished it in mere weeks. Back in the stellar concordance, news of humanity's progress sparked heated debates among its leaders. For the first time in galactic history, a species had demonstrated not only adaptability, but outright defiance in the face of superior power. Some council members viewed this as reckless arrogance, warning that humanity's rapid advancement could destabilize the delicate balance of interstellar politics. Others saw it as proof of humanity's potential to reshape the galaxy. Perhaps, they suggested, humans could teach the rest of the galaxy something it had forgotten long ago: the value of resilience, innovation, and boldness. While the aliens debated, humanity continued to rally around a shared identity. For so long, Earth had been divided by borders, ideologies, and conflicts. Nations competed against each other, cultures clashed, and individuals often prioritized personal gain over collective good. But now, faced with the reality of extraterrestrial contact, those divisions began to blur. People realized that, for better or worse, they were all in this together. This newfound sense of unity wasn't perfect, far from it, but it was a start. One particularly powerful moment came when a coalition of nations announced the formation of a global response initiative. This organization, composed of representatives from every corner of the planet, was tasked with coordinating humanity's response to the alien presence. Its mission was twofold: to protect Earth's interests while fostering peaceful cooperation with the visitors. Many skeptics dismissed the initiative as naive or impractical, but supporters hailed it as a historic step toward global unity. The aliens, watching these developments closely, couldn't help but feel a pang of envy. Their own societies, though advanced, lacked the raw passion and unpredictability that made humanity so compelling. They lived orderly lives governed by logic and efficiency. Emotions, if they existed at all, were subdued, seen as obstacles to progress. But here was a species that embraced chaos, thriving in the spaces between order and disorder. They created art that stirred the soul, music that moved the heart, and stories that sparked the imagination. And now they were proving that even in the face of overwhelming odds, they could come together to defend their home. As the weeks turned into months, the relationship between humans and aliens remained tense but stable. The delegation, still stationed near the crash site, maintained open lines of communication with Earth's leaders. While trust was fragile, both sides recognized the importance of finding common ground. Slowly but surely, a tentative partnership began to form. The aliens shared limited information about their technology, offering guidance on how to use it safely and responsibly. In return, humanity provided insights into their culture, sharing stories, art, and traditions that highlighted the richness of their existence. These exchanges, though cautious, revealed surprising similarities between the two species. Both valued exploration, driven by an insatiable curiosity about the universe. Both sought connection, whether through family, community, or alliances. And both understood the weight of responsibility that came with wielding great power. Yet their differences were equally profound. Where the aliens prized logic and precision, humans embraced emotion and spontaneity. Where the aliens built sterile, efficient cities, humans created vibrant, chaotic ones. These contrasts fascinated both sides, fueling a growing mutual respect. By the end of this period, humanity had transformed in ways no one could have predicted. They had gone from being passive observers of their own fate to active participants in shaping it. The crash landing, once seen as a disaster, had become a catalyst for change. It forced humanity to confront its fears, question its assumptions, and dream bigger than ever before. And while challenges remained, political divisions, ethical dilemmas, and the ever-present threat of conflict, the seeds of something extraordinary had been planted. For the aliens, this chapter marked a turning point. They had come to Earth seeking answers, but instead they found inspiration. Humanity's complexity, once viewed as a liability, now seemed like its greatest strength. As they prepared to leave Earth and report back to the Stellar Concordance, the delegation knew one thing for certain: the galaxy would never be the same again. Not because of what they had discovered, but because of what humanity had shown them. The final chapter of humanity's first encounter with extraterrestrial life began not with a bang, but with a quiet moment of reflection. Both humans and aliens had reached a crossroads. The initial shock of discovery had faded, replaced by the hard work of building trust and understanding. Neither side wanted war, neither could afford it, but neither was entirely sure how to move forward. What started as an accidental meeting between two vastly different civilizations had grown into something far more profound. A test of whether coexistence was possible or if fear and misunderstanding would drive them apart. The turning point came during a series of meetings held in neutral territory, a remote island chosen for its isolation and symbolic significance. Representatives from Earth's Global Response Initiative sat across from members of the alien delegation, their expressions cautious but hopeful. The atmosphere was tense, yet there was an unspoken acknowledgement that this was a historic moment. For the first time, humanity wasn't just reacting to the presence of another species, they were actively shaping the future of their relationship. At the heart of these discussions was a simple question: what did each side want? The aliens made their position clear. They sought knowledge, not conquest. They viewed humanity as a puzzle worth solving, a species whose creativity and resilience offered lessons the galaxy desperately needed. But they also admitted their fears. Humanity's unpredictability, while fascinating, posed risks. If such volatile beings ever ventured into space, they might disrupt the delicate balance of galactic politics. The aliens asked for assurances, promises that humanity would use their newfound knowledge responsibly and respect the rules of interstellar diplomacy. Humanity's response surprised even themselves. When instead of focusing solely on their own needs, they emphasized mutual benefit. They acknowledged their flaws, their history of conflict, greed, and short-sightedness, but argued that those same flaws were what made them adaptable and innovative. They promised to learn from the aliens, to grow wiser and more responsible as they stepped onto the galactic stage. In return, they asked for guidance, not just in technology, but in philosophy, ethics, and governance. They wanted to understand how the stellar concordance maintained peace among so many diverse species, hoping to apply those lessons to their own fractured world. These negotiations weren't easy. There were moments of frustration, miscommunication, and doubt. Some human leaders accused the aliens of withholding critical information, while some alien delegates questioned humanity's sincerity. But through it all, both sides remained committed to finding common ground. Slowly, agreements began to take shape. The aliens agreed to share certain technologies, provided humanity demonstrated they could handle them responsibly. In exchange, humanity pledged to establish safeguards against misuse, including international oversight and strict regulations. One of the most significant outcomes of these talks was the creation of a joint research facility. Located in orbit around Earth, this station became a symbol of cooperation, a place where humans and aliens work side by side to explore new frontiers of science and technology. It wasn't just about practical advancements. It was about fostering connections. Scientists from both species collaborated on projects ranging from renewable energy solutions to medical breakthroughs. Engineers designed hybrid spacecraft capable of traveling faster and farther than ever before. And philosophers engaged in deep conversations about the nature of existence, morality, and the universe itself. But perhaps the most transformative aspect of this partnership was cultural exchange. As humans and aliens interacted more closely, they discovered shared passions and unexpected differences. Art became a universal language, bridging gaps that words alone couldn't span. Alien ambassadors marveled at human literature, film, and music, finding beauty in stories that explored themes of love, loss, and redemption. Humans in turn embraced alien philosophies and artistic expressions, gaining new perspectives on life and the cosmos. Music played a particularly important role in bringing the two species together. During one memorable event aboard the orbital station, a human musician performed alongside an alien counterpart. The human played a haunting melody on a violin, while the alien produced ethereal tones using instruments that defied description. Together, their performance created something neither could have achieved alone, a harmonious blend of sound that resonated deeply with everyone present. It was a reminder that, despite their differences, humans and aliens shared a fundamental desire to create and connect. As years passed, the impact of this partnership rippled across the galaxy. Other civilizations within the stellar concordance took notice, intrigued by humanity's rapid evolution. Some were skeptical, fearing that humanity's chaotic brilliance might upset the status quo. Others saw potential allies in these unpredictable beings, eager to collaborate on projects that required fresh thinking and bold action. Gradually, humanity earned its place among the stars, not as passive participants, but as active contributors to the galactic community. Back on Earth, the changes were equally profound. The unity forged during the crisis with the aliens proved resilient, laying the foundation for a more cooperative global society. Conflict still arose, of course. Human nature hadn't changed overnight, but the sense of shared purpose persisted. People began to see themselves not just as citizens of individual nations, but as members of a single planet, part of a larger cosmic family. This shift in perspective inspired countless acts of kindness, innovation, and courage. Historians would later look back on this period as the dawn of a new era, an era defined not by division, but by collaboration. Humanity had proven that being different wasn't a weakness, but a strength. Their emotions, once seen as obstacles, became sources of inspiration. Their imperfections, once viewed as liabilities, turned out to be assets, and their determination to overcome challenges, no matter how daunting, earned them respect throughout the galaxy. Of course, the road ahead remained uncertain. Humanity's journey into space was just beginning, and there would undoubtedly be trials and triumphs along the way. But one thing was clear: Earth had earned its place among the stars. The aliens who had once watched humanity from afar now stood beside them, partners in exploration and discovery. Together, and they faced the unknown, driven by a shared belief in the power of curiosity, connection, and hope. And so, as the sun set over Earth's horizon, casting golden light across oceans and continents, humanity looked up at the night sky with renewed wonder. They knew they weren't alone anymore, and they couldn't wait to see what adventures lay ahead.